With the smarts of over 145,000 experts and the most advanced machine intelligence available, you can turn your operations into intelligent operations. Accenture. Let there be change.
All good things come in threes. So very good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you. And let's jump directly into our day 3 of the Intelligent Operation Days. Let me introduce you to myself. I'm Andrei Oleshinsky. I'm your host throughout the whole event. I'm running operations BPO at Accenture DACH in the region for the industries, products, and CMT. So this event is from our clients for our clients. Our clients talk about their journeys to intelligent operations to drive higher business value and also share their insights and experience and lessons learned. We already had 2 very insightful days, packed with interesting speeches and interviews, and have seen a lot about the future of finance and HR, future of marketing, operations, and an objective analyst view of the market. So shortly, a recap from day 2. We had inspiring insights from Accenture Interactive, from Google, from BMW, and also Horses for Sources as an analyst. So shortly, what we learned on day 2. It's all about customer data, number 1. Number 2, even creativity needs data. And number 3, leveraging ecosystems to optimize the outcome of data usage really brings you forward. So kicking things off today, we will focus on the new wave of operations. So again, we heard about enterprise functions, day 1, marketing operations, day 2, but that's not all. What other capabilities do we have? And we start off today with a panel discussion, and I'm already really happy to have 5 great panelists with a great lineup on stage with you together and have an interesting discussion. And then we go into the breakouts with the new breed of operations. We have a learning topic, new, really exciting learning topic. We have an inside sales, completely new offering and capability for Accenture. And we talk about data-driven operations with GEA. And then I'm happy to welcome Frank Riemensberger on stage with me here in Munich for the closing of the day 3, but also the entire event of the Intelligent Operation Days. How to engage and interact. So obviously you can raise your questions when we are more than happy to take that in every session. You have the Q&A chat functionality for this. But you're also happy to hear any comments, likes, don't likes, whatever, in the attendee chat. So let's interact and communicate and network with each other. And obviously, as follow-up, we have the Content Hub, Accenture Rooms, where we have all the presentations, but also the replays of day 1, day 2, and also follow it later by day 3, but also point of views and all the questions who couldn't be answered directly in the sessions, we are following up with Q&A follow-up also in the Accenture Rooms Content Hub. So now let's start with the panel discussion. And I'm really happy to have you all here. So at the beginning, in day 1, we heard about Future Ready on the first day from Kaushal Modi. So now we come back with that topic and theme again today in the panel discussion. So we heard a lot about possibility, what intelligent operations can create in enterprise functions, day 1, and marketing, day 2. Do you ask yourself, what is really future ready? What does this mean? And are you future ready? So let's get various perspectives on this topic in our panel discussion. And I'm super delighted we have here with us our panelists. And I just welcome them and a short introduction from my side. We have already a familiar face from Dublin. I learned this. Alan Byrne, Senior Director Finance, Microsoft, sharing his perspective. Great to have you here. Secondly, visionary and technology insights from Peter Walker, the CTO from Blue Prism, who showed us to always stay digital curious. Then we have Helmut Rattenberger, a third-party advisor from Ernst & Young on stage as well, joining in us from Zurich. And then AC Arundhati Chakraborty, sorry for that. AC, our global delivery lead and responsible for roughly roundabout 140,000 employees. Wow, that's quite a number. Focusing completely on the delivery of intelligent operations. And finally, and last but not least, Max Tomiak, our Accenture strategy and consulting lead for CFO and enterprise value and GBS functions in our DACH region. Great to have you all here, really delighted. So shortly before we start with the real Q&A, with the panel discussion, setting the scene. As mentioned in the keynote on the first day, only 7% of the companies are rated themselves as future ready. Why do companies need to be future ready, and what does that mean? For our panel discussion, we would like to define the term future ready more tangible and come with this equation. Future ready equals to resource optimal, resilient, and agile. I think it's very simple in that way. And the hypothesis behind it, future ready is the key to enable long-term success. It helps to be adaptable and to simplify processes. What is underlying meaning of these buzzwords used in this equation? Very briefly, resource optimal, we see operating at minimal costs, seeking for touchless operations as a North Star, but also equally ensure the ideal use of technology and having an effective human and machine ratio. Resilient, number 2, thus enables the companies to handle unforeseen and challenging circumstances in the best possible way, even more relevant with the pandemic situation we have currently. Number 3, agile allows companies to breathe flexible regarding their workforce in both directions, very important, be independent of certain locations and time zones. That's what future ready means for operations. So now over to you, our panelists, and the current state of intelligent operations as round 1. AC, again, great to have you here. I would directly dive into the discussion with you. Our current Accenture survey on intelligent operations shows that only a small percentage, again, the 7%, are future ready. Many executives are currently making incremental changes to their business operations, such as core areas, processes, and service management functions. But often they fail to change the way they work. They don't act or scale fast enough. In your experience, what slows down this journey? AC.
Thanks, Andre. Pleasure to be talking to everybody and to be part of this esteemed panel. This is so I hope, Andre, this is not my performance appraisal, but my work along with my teams is really to drive all our clients towards future ready. But, the experience, and we've been doing this for a few years, the experience has taught us a lot. And I will just share through pure experience of working with different clients as to what we found works very well and what slows down. So you are right. We are at about 7% in the future ready. I know we spoke about future ready, but future ready also means driving strong business outcomes and really taking the company to a top quartile performance. So when we go back and we look at it, there are four parts to this, right? First is it happens with an end-to-end process transformation mindset, not with like let's get this task, let's get so many people out, but an end-to-end relooking at an entire process and transforming. It happens with agility to deploy assets. And when I say agility, it's like, I see all kinds, right? There is hesitance. So it happens with a willingness that we will make changes upstream. It's not about doing things downstream. It is about doing things upstream. And the fourth is, are you really using, all of us have data, are you really using the insights from that data to drive the changes? Now, where we find struggles is, I would say, the first three. Very often the not willingness to do something end to end. You have this in the scope and let's just get this done. Instead of thinking for the full picture, we find, that often the whole partnership, and I know Alan is here, but brilliant example, he'll talk about it, where Microsoft and Accenture have come together. It's one goal, one North Star, driving Microsoft technology tools, using those. So, how do we do that end to end? And I would also say that, the other one is we often find that the willingness to deploy assets, or even share data and look at insights, these are what slows, certain clients down. I'll give some examples, like typically what I have seen, and this is again from data, roughly that second stage that we have when we say that, okay, our clients are automated or efficient, that takes anywhere between 6 months to 20 months or even more. Now, when we say we are getting into predictive, when we are really using insights, has taken us from about 1.5 years to even 4 years. So Alan, that's, I don't know if I have more time, but maybe at a later stage, I do have some examples of, clients who've done this quickly or not, but I want to be mindful of time, and I'll ask you whether you want me to take the examples now or we can come back. Andre?
Yeah, thank you very much, AC. Very insightful. I would go directly to Helmut, to the next question, because we need to really look very good answer, but we really need to look at the timing. So, but Helmut, over to you. What are the requirements for the clients and the BPO providers, so both sides, to ensure a successful transformation so that companies are future ready? And what kind of readiness is necessary to have a reliable foundation to accelerate this journey?
Thank you, Andre. So I think what I've seen, and I like what AC said, right? So the first of all, what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years is that clients have shifted their expectations, right? And they've shifted actually drastically. Previous deals were based on the expectations to reduce costs, right? Those were the older generation of deals. And what we see in the market now from a deal consultant side is that clients are asking for transformation, and not only for transformation, but also for transformation partners. And what clients and BPO providers need to consider is that this requires a different form of collaboration. Actually, I would say a different mindset. And Accenture has demonstrated this very successfully in some of their recent deals, especially I would say not only because Alan is here, but the Microsoft deal is really a lighthouse deal in that area, where output and transformation is at the center of the deal. And I would say to this day, it's one of the most successful deals that I've seen in the market. So if you want your BPO provider to truly transform you, you have to make you future ready, right? And for that, you should consider 4 things. The first one is you have to share your clear vision and what you want to achieve with your future partner, and you have to include your partner in that vision. The second one is you have to be ready to truly collaborate, to work together. That's with resources, a combined vision, a combined target and operating model. The third one, I would say, is you have to change your mindset. So you have to go away from a me and versus them attitude to you have to achieve a transformation together, right? So think we versus your BPO provider and us. Some successful deals actually also use shared KPIs to achieve this. And the last one, and I think also the most important one, you have to partner in all matters. This means you have to change your governance, you have to incentivize your partner, and actually create a win-win environment for both.
Very clear 4 points. It sounds easy, but it's not. But very important points indeed, Helmut. Thanks for that. And just to ensure, we did not pay you to say this, because it matches exactly with our experiences and our takes and lessons learned. And Ellen, I see you're a lot spot on for Microsoft already. But nevertheless, the next question goes to you, Max. Max, what is your experience from a strategy and consulting perspective? Now, changes angles again. What are your thoughts about this hypothesis, especially after your euphoric start to automation? It was soon realized that not everything could be implemented as fast and easy as initially planned. The automation of processes is therefore more of a marathon than a sprint. Everything, of course, seen in a strategy and consulting perspective. Would you agree with that, such a comment?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that, the mantra that technology will be the silver bullet has never upheld, in any decade that, we've had different vendors and different technologies come. Because in order to drive real change, you have to make some tough decisions. And, moving from a functional process to an end-to-end process breaks many of the logical barriers how we've organized ourselves, even how software vendors have organized their platforms in many ways, and requires a different way of behaving. And that really ultimately, I think, is the big change. To get future ready, you need to deploy different types of behaviors. If you have an agile organization, but you're driving still through traditional KPIs and in terms of leadership behavior, don't expect to have an agile organization that is future ready. And so, whilst we always talk about process, we talk about systems, and we talk about data, at the end of the day, I think, from my experience, 20% of the real tough decisions in terms of leadership stem around how you need to drive the governance to actually enact the change. And to give you a practical example, master data management. Has finance solved this in the past 2, 3, 4, 5 decades? Certainly not. But now we're expecting organizations to mine processes for data to make more intelligent decisions. That's not really happening in most organizations. We're creating data lakes, with different degrees of maturity, so timeliness of data, not necessarily asking the right questions, as a result, getting maybe some poor correlations. So, it needs a different behavior. And I actually truly believe that those types of behaviors need also a different way of cooperating within organizations. You can't do this top down. The world is too complex. No function will be able to have just one standard how they operate things. So there's a tension for moving from great complexity, which makes change slow and has higher costs, which we're trying to move away from, and at the same time, function trying to over standardize, over leveraging towards one standard, which is too simple. So finding that balance, I think to AC's point around a business-led, maybe business model led, design of processes and requirements with different degrees of future readiness, because some of them will be coming in 2, 3, maybe 10 years time. If you think about the life science industry around outcome-based medicine, and others might be, your cash cow today. All those different implications. You need to, I think, more co-create those governance processes with local entities or divisions, as well as with the group. So it's also how finance drives the change that needs to be different. And again, there are some tough questions that companies have historically not solved, as we all know. In order to be future ready, we will have to solve them. The margin for error is getting smaller.
Thank you, Max. And I like this take. There are still open questions to solve.
And so now, just as maybe one connect there, it also links to, I think, to AC's and particularly Helmut's point around partnership, because you can't have a we within with an external partner if you can't even make it work internally. So now think about an end-to-end process with a third-party vendor helping you, virtually impossible. So unless you get that right, figure out how to work, change the behaviors, incentivize, it's not going to work. So it's about people, as always. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, fully agree. At the end, it's a people business, everything. So now let's switch to the client perspective. Ellen, now you are really spot on. Well, we all seek a touchless operation. I think that's the North Star. Just to ensure a common understanding of this term, we define it as a combination of intelligent insights, machine learning, supported by end-to-end automation architecture, and orchestration frameworks based on harmonized processes applied at enterprise level. Pooh, that's heavy. But do you see the chance of having real touchless operations in Microsoft? Because we heard you are the lighthouse project, more or less. And if so, when do you think this will be achieved?
Thank you. Absolutely, I think we have the opportunity for touchless, and I think in some areas we're already there. So we in some areas we have blockchain, in some areas we have plus 95% of the intake electronic, and that flows through the system. I think to follow on from some of the points earlier, it has to be about trust, and it has to be about together. And we're driving a real process now around simplification. If you've got really complex processes and you've got multiple trade-offs, well, then automating that into a touchless end-to-end is really, really hard. So simplicity and how you can take out some of those steps, how you can bring some of that control points, see shifted left in the process so it's upfront, so that when people actually do get into the system, they can get in and get out quickly. And to the user, the customer service benefit of that is huge, because they're not interacting with systems all day. But then it's having the ability to do the connecting of all your systems. So I see the end-to-end solution. I'm only interested in end-to-end solutions. When we talk about we want to achieve something, we don't go to our IT partners, we don't go to our BPO partners with, this is what we'd like you to build. We go to the IT partner and our BPO partner to say, this is the problem in our business that we're trying to solve. How can you help us solve that problem? So it's kind of shifting the mindset so that you let your partner in and you utilize that best practice in the market. So I see that touchless as being multiple process steps that go to an end-to-end process that you look at which are the ones that are kind of simple to bring in, to make it touchless, and then integrate them so they're seamless to the customer. And then the ones that are really hard to make touchless, then you got to go re-engineer that, and you got to break it down, and you start from scratch. I think where the complexity comes in is with the statutory landscape that we have. You know, if we were all on the same currency, on the same ERP, speaking the same language in the same time zone, and we didn't have complex tax structures, well then the automation of that touchless operation is really easy. But as you layer on all those things, it becomes more and more complex. So as much as you can, if you can take out that complexity, well then it becomes much easier to push it through. And then in the finance space, we're already there in some respects where, you know, you can have AI sitting on top of your source systems and looking at where are people getting stuck in the system. So we're using things like intelligent bots, CRM, that sort of sees where people are stuck in a process and reaches out to the person and ask them, do they want help before they even get frustrated with the process. So it's leveraging that big data, and it's making sure that big data is trusted by your customer, trusted by your user, and then bringing in your BPO partners and bringing in your technical solution partners to help them develop the solution for you.
Very interesting, and touchless is I think at reach, I would say, as a short summary. So now handing over.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Alan. Now handing over to Peter. In order to become future ready and apply proper intelligence, it's important to have a large amount of right and reliable data, also referring to what just Alan said. How do you ensure user trust, and what are the necessary cultural and technical requirements that can simplify this journey?
Yeah, sure, indeed. So Alan mentioned the word trust, and I would say this is foundational to making progress and having an effective program. And you know, data is the oxygen that we breathe in these digitization programs. So yeah, we're planning something ambitious. I won't quite say it's a trip to the moon, but it you know, it can be a tall order many times. And you don't want to plan a trip to the moon without a good plan for the oxygen, not just when you get there, but on the way. And, you know, people can be quite worried that data governance is a really serious and complex topic. And for sure, there are things you need to be careful of. But actually, I really encourage people. It can be very simple, and we can break this down. Marketeers like to tell us that data is the new gold. And what I tell people is, well, no, it's like plutonium. You know, you really want to know who's got hold of that stuff and why. What are their future plans for it? How are they going to store it? You know, how are they going to dispose of it at the end of its lifetime? So it boils down to some really simple, fundamental questions about control. But once you've done that, once you have a good data governance framework in place, it's hugely empowering. Because instead of saying no to everybody all the time, or I don't know, or we might not be allowed to do that, it's very empowering. It allows you to say yes. You're creating the right conditions for progress to take place.
Great, Peter. And I really like the metaphor about data as oxygen. We heard oil is in the core, but the oxygen thing metaphor is a very interesting one. So now let's start the second round of questions and looking forward to the future of intelligent operations. Besides focusing on the status, what we've just done now in round one, let's get some opinions about the future. So where do you see intelligent operations in a few years? And how will this influence workforce, culture, and business models? So Peter, again, referring to you, the question arises, how intelligent are current AI systems? And how do you forecast their development in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years? What is your view?
Okay, I left my crystal ball in the office last year, but I will do my best. You know, I think it's fair to say the industry is actually quite young. You know, a lot of the theory for AI stems back to the 1950s and 60s and is very well established. But as an industry, if you look at all the investment dollars and activity that have gone into this, you know, really it's only existed for the last decade. So, it's quite hard to say where it's going to go. One observation from me is that it wouldn't surprise me if we had a bit of a hiccup in the next 5 to 10 years as we go through the hype cycle and people start to question pace of progress, especially if we have a recession or frustration in the financial markets. People might question investments, but then again, with all the money printing that's taking place, financial conditions are easier than ever. We may get more and more investment in this space. But broadly speaking, I think we're going to get more of the same, which is there's a very high pace of progress right now. Best of breed solutions today are being leapfrogged in only 18 months, 2 years time. I think our definitions of what constitutes intelligent will continually creep as this becomes commoditized. We will stop recognizing that intelligence is embedded. And I think the really important thing for people to remember right now is that the most successful deployments of AI have a very specific scope. We're not trying to solve massive general purpose problems here. So on a practical note, if you had 20 million to invest over the next 10 years, I wouldn't say go and buy a big bang one-stop platform expecting it to do everything. You're only going to be disappointed. So I would break that up into maybe 10 or 20 investments to make over a number of years.
Very interesting, Peter. Thank you. So, Ellen, over to you. So what is your perspective? And switching the perspectives again a little bit, what do you see as a forecast, as a forecast for the development of your own products as a high-tech company for Microsoft? So the Microsoft products I'm talking about in the future, 5 to 10 years or whatever time we have. Also the crystal balls. I don't know if you have it, but I think you have a good insight or a feeling of that.
Yeah, like Peter, I've also left my crystal ball in my office, and nor do I own product development. So this is kind of a view from the finance side of Microsoft. But we listen to user business cases or user cases constantly all the time, and we then try to apply those user cases to our own business to see where have we solved that issue, or if it is an issue, is it something we want to go and invest in? So I think Microsoft will continue to invest in sort of cloud-based solutions that read, store, and connect data. I think someone earlier talked about data lake capability. We're really driving towards the data lake so we can really store big data in a place where we can connect it, but also then how do we get it back out of that data lake? So how do we interface with our partners? So they might be a statutory partner, they might be a tax partner. So how do we get our information back out in a secure and stable way? And how do we not give too much information out of the data lake? So I think companies are interested in low code kind of citizen developer movement. So I think the finance professional of the future has to be a citizen developer. They have to have an understanding of, how can we apply those small investments to current issues and then try and stitch them together using like something like the Microsoft Power Platform. So how do we visualize data? How do we consume it, and how do we then use it for really good business making decisions? So one of the areas that we're kind of interested, and it's if I think about Cortana, Alexa, Siri type natural language integration software, interrogation software, is we need to sort of build simple query builders that sit on top of your systems, and by doing that you can take really simple inputs that leverages AI to deliver the complex output. So I think we will see the development of a language where we can use smarter, technical savvy folks on the front end in a low code environment that have enough ability to be able to use those interrogation tools, and we will see the rise of some sort of interrogation layer that allows us to interrogate our systems in a simple way and leverages AI and big data to give you the complexity of the solution. Because IT departments all over the world at every company are at capacity. So you got to sort of build the capacity somewhere else. So, we don't all need to be data scientists. If you have some, great. but it's growing that citizen development curiosity within your finance function or within your overall sort of BPO environment, and then how you then empower those people to use that data. So it's doing that activity in full sight of your IT partners, so they can see what you're doing. But it's really about that interrogation of your system.
Even without a crystal ball, I like this perspective. Alan.
If I can add one thing, we also dog food all our own products. So we eat what we build, and everybody inside the sort of the Microsoft BPO space is encouraged to do showcase. So what we will always encourage any of our customers, either new customers or old customers, if you want us to showcase what we do, we're happy to showcase it, and that leverages what we do. It leverages what Accenture does, and if it helps the partner, well then we're happy to share it. It's everything is open source. We're not privy to anything. So.
Very good, thanks, Alan. So over Helmut to Zurich. As Peter and Alan just mentioned, the status of current AI is still, let's say, at a very early stage, which is, I think, good and promising also for the future. What do you think how business models will change due to higher intelligence?
So, thank you. I like what Peter said, right? And I mean, today the most successful systems are niche systems, right? And they are really designed to solve a specific problem. And I fully agree with this. Right now, AI, even though we've made huge progress in the past, it is still very much at the beginning. And I mean, corporations start experimenting with this. They start to make it an intrinsic part of their operating model, which is the right direction to go. It's the same trend as we had with robotic process automation. You have to first understand a technology, and you have to create use cases for it, right? The second thing is, we've just started to figure out, right, which problems to address with which algorithm, and AI is directional today. So this is a constant iterative process, and we have to update the data model as we go, but also the change management component on the side, right? Because humans is probably the one critical thing that stands between AI and a successful implementation, and our natural inclination to doubt things and to resist change. So I would say successful business models will become nimbler and more adaptive. They will be able to react much quicker, and they will have AI at the core. Because already today, the company who addresses change, and that's positive or negative change, they win the race. So this will become even more critical in the future.
Helmut, but I don't let you off the hook. Another question directly to you. From your experience, where do you see customers' ability to adapt and change toward future readiness? And then in consequence, how can BPO's providers support their clients in achieving higher value in the future?
So, I mean, this time I'll agree with what Alan said, right? Microsoft actually, they developed the technology, but they also are the first ones to adapt it and integrate it in their company and try it, right? And use case it. What I see is, so first of all, there's no digital solution that solves every problem, right? And this is many times the expectations that clients have is, right? You sell me a tool and it will solve all my problems to a completely non-digital process. And then at the end, you know, when we are done implementing it, there's a huge disappointment because the expectations are here and the system is delivering here, right? So again, it's an iterative process, right? You have to continuously adopt and optimize the analog world, your existing process, to the digital enabler. And the digital enabler has to be at the core of this. Otherwise, you will not succeed. And it's a journey more than anything else. It's not a sprint, right? It's a long-term marathon. And at the end, it's the digital solution that will perform and optimize you, right? But it's really a marathon. And I would say a successful BPO provider needs to bring three things to the table, right? The first one is a deep understanding of what the customer's challenges really are. The second, like a doctor, right? The right technological innovation that addresses exactly these challenges, and the ability to adapt and customize the technology to these unique challenges. And the third and the last one, but definitely the most important one, the right change management capabilities because I would always say change management is key.
Absolutely, and fully agree, Helmut. Again, we heard it several times. People stay at the core. So thank you so much for your insights. And we can take away for us that we need to understand the challenges of our customers and have also customized technology. Helmut, exactly, you nailed it down. That is adaptable to specific processes of the client. And lastly, that a good change management can make or break a BPO deal. People, again, it's all about people. So AC, over to you. So more tasks being automated, and we heard that, and I think we cannot and we will not stop that. But more tasks being automated, which leads to a shift in skills and needed capabilities. In your vision, AC, how will the existing workforce change with respect to human and machine talent ratio as well as the skills required behind it?
Yeah, Andre, that's a great question, because that's something that we are dealing with every day. And I think the industry or even the clients are not really recognizing that shift of talent that is happening and needs to happen. And I'll take one example. This is work that we did for Amazon. It was a work called buyer risk identification. Now, the AI engine, which is theirs, and the platform, you will be surprised, was the straight-through process of that was 99.8%. I've never seen this, right? This is the buying and selling platform. What came to us in our Accenture team was 0.2%. Now, and that came in 40 languages. So just imagine what the AI and the platform could not figure out is the work that we had to figure out with multiple languages, ability to collaborate with, different countries. This was not happening in one country. The work was happening in Delhi, but there could be any country, anywhere in the world. So understanding that client behavior. So if I look back at that and if I see, right, we still think that we will need people who can do transactional work, but what is needed is problem solvers, critical thinkers, right? And people who just don't see data, but actually see what that data tells you, right? And I'll take, the other one is, it's from Jaguar. We are expected to do, let's say, warranty work, right? Basic warranty management. But guess what? From that, the team started giving insights, which went back into changing parts of the car. Here is what's happening with the brake, or here's what's happening with, so, and how many cases, and that was a product insight. So it's not just a trend, it's not an operational insight. And that's what I see, like Google all the time asking, tell us, even if it is a customer service team, tell us what you're learning so that we can make our product better. So the shift in talent, Andre, needs to be massive, but I personally feel that while we are reskilling, etc., it's a higher level of talent that you bring in upfront. It's a different, therefore a different discussion. And coming back to Helmut's first point, right? Really collaborating in the beginning, right? That what do you really want, and what kind of talent can truly deliver this? So massive shift, Andre, from a very a transactional mindset. We went into people who can automate, great, process experts, great, but people who are actually critical thinkers, problem solvers, and can give insights, right? That's a very, very big shift.
Thanks, AC, and just a personal story behind it. When I was in India a couple of years ago, it was a completely different thing than, let's say, the last 2 years. It was such a difference from really, as you just mentioned, AC, this transactional to really problem thinking, problem solving, forward thinking capabilities. So it's a clear trend, and we cannot stop that, and that's very exciting. Thanks, AC. So now, Max, to you. The status of current AI applications in GBS, so Global Business Services, captive shared service center organizations, is still in a very early stage. Where do you see the future of GBS organizations enabled by more mature AI? What is your perspective on this?
Well, I think if you look at it almost like a layer cake, because there isn't the AI. There's the capabilities that, say, the platform providers bring around the infrastructure, which are making promises and bring capabilities that deliver value. You then have, of course, the individual, software platform vendors that are also embedding that into their capabilities. And then there's, so to speak, the piece that connects the dots, where you might have, based also on industry standards, pieces of an end-to-end process that actually are today manual, or where systems and API connections don't work so well. That's where many, I think, of that middle layer that Alan was talking about will be coming in to almost figure out across the three different layers, where do you get the biggest bang for the buck around automation, by simplifying the process and putting it to a standard, or actually doing more of a robotics type of change to plug things together. Because by business model, you're going to find different standards. If you're working with a regulatory environment, say in Europe, and you're dealing with a paper-based regulator, there are limitations to what you can do around automation. Of course, if you're dealing with customers primarily on an online basis, downloading your software, that's going to be a bit easier, most likely. But you face other requirements like tax, where do they sit, what is the product and where does it come from? So there's other forms of complexity. So it's not a one size fits all. I think the one thing that maybe also looking forward that will determine the success around automation really is how companies figure out what is core, also from an architecture perspective, what really is the core that is integrated versus what is non-core, where you allow more flexibility, more best of breed types of capabilities. And then subsequent to that also, what is core to the things that you can and cannot do? Because a lot of the change relates to capability, but also capacity. If you think about all the number of programs that companies are driving, and it's always the same people that they hit at a market level, or at a functional level, or at a divisional level, or regional level. Most of the programs don't get very far because they simply don't have the bandwidth, and so they get done for a year and then they fall off and they never get completed. So I think that part of the success is really figuring out how you use partners to increase your capacity, but also I think it's unfair to expect that a captive GBS organization with a few hundred people will have the same technology library and know-how that many of the biggest platform providers have. So that using the capability to plug in a we type of environment. Oftentimes that has to be moderated by third-party providers, because there's still a natural hesitation to think in terms of them and us. I think a lot of that has to do also with how you incentivize procurement. I think it's actually an underemphasized component. If you emphasize the organization that drives the partnering based on cost or based on lowering price and not on total value, it becomes very difficult. And Helmut, the same thing also from an advisor perspective. If the incentive is to lower the cost, you're going to have very, very different types of solutions. So you need to understand, besides to say some of these fundamentals, how, again, the people that are working on the deal are incentivized, what perspective they take. You need to be very, very clear as you're shaping this journey, how you want that managed. And I think many organizations underestimate how many different perspectives come into this, and sometimes just lead to a good idea executed very poorly. As in most cases, good ideas that aren't executed very well, that doesn't mean that the strategy was wrong.
Great, Max. Thank you. And I would like to continue. And I see from my team, we have also some questions from the audience. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. So with that, let me just, first of all, thank you to all our panelists. It was a great round, a great discussion, great flow of discussion as well. And again, much appreciated your time and your views and your inspiring insights, and especially the forecasts, even without the crystal ball. But just to sum it up, key takeaways. Number one, data is the imperative. I think we heard oil, oxygen. It's in the middle of everything. It's the core. Secondly, new human and machine ratio will shift towards more machine, but humans will not disappear. Also, this is an important take. So, and we are not touchless as of now, but as we heard also from Ellen, but we will get closer. In some areas, we are already there. This is also promising. And finally, just to conclude with this, I think very simple formula: future ready is equal to resource optimal, agile, and resilient. Again, thanks to all. Great session, great show. Much appreciated, and have a great day.
Good job hosting, Andre. Good job hosting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So after our exciting panel discussion, let's see some examples about what the new breed of operations is. Enjoy and get inspired by TUMO Berlin, a special project imported by our Chancellor Angela Merkel, supported by KfW and or driven by KfW, and it's supported by Accenture. And then we also see a completely new capability, new offering, inside sales with our latest acquisition, N3. And then we rounded up with GEA's intensive data-driven journey to the cloud. So with that, let's start with the first topic, learning. TUMO, a digital learning lab in Berlin, which is supported by Accenture's capabilities and driven by KfW. We proudly present the inspiring project about the future of learning. So please welcome with me on stage Michael Strauss, Chief Digital Officer of KfW, and Pegor Papazian, I think from Azerbaijan even dialing in, the founder of TUMO and the brain behind it, and Tanya Martin with me here in the studio in Munich.
Andre.
Hi.
And good to see you. And it's Armenia. So
it's Armenia. Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, exciting, and I think really excited being there because, as you rightly said, Andre, it's in the new, and new in a sense of helping the society. So it's not something we typically do out of the box, but really something that was close to and Pegor, Michael, and my heart to get it going for Germany. Mm-hmm. So and with that being said, I think just a teaser for everyone what TUMO is all about.
Thank you, Tanya.
Hello, I'm Pegor Papazian, joining from Armenia, and what you're seeing on screen is Chancellor Angela Merkel's visit to Yerevan, Armenia, and the TUMO Center. It was a meeting supposed to last 15 minutes, and according to her security, to only cover a couple of spots, but she ended up staying 1 hour and went wherever she wanted. So everything from our coding labs to graphic design and animation workshops, to digital music instrument creation, to the robotics program and circuit design. And in the end, she was very insightful after interesting questions.
Das verträgt der ist nicht ganz so.
And in the end, she said we should probably have one of these in Germany. I assume you can hear me, correct? So TUMO is an after-school program. It's a very different new kind of learning environment for teenagers, completely free of charge. We currently have around the world over 20,000 students that attend every week for 1 or 2 sessions a week, typically for 1 or 2 years, sometimes more. It's focused around everything at the intersection of technology and design, and it's designed to give teenagers the self-confidence, the tools, the know-how to go out and become innovative entrepreneurs, inventive members of teams, and extremely competitive in the learning environments of the future and the working environment of today and tomorrow. At TUMO, we feel that empowering teenagers is an important part of the equation, and that they are the main stakeholders of learning, at least at that level, the pre-university level, and it can make a significant difference in their lives and their productivity and even their happiness if they're able to get the right kind of education. If I could now jump to my presentation. I would start with the idea of the pedagogical principle behind the TUMO Center and what we call walk-away pedagogy. And that's based on the question of what would happen if students were not obliged to come to school, if they were free to walk away? How would schools change? How would the education system change so that it's a meaningful learning experience, but at the same time is something that the stakeholders themselves find extremely valuable. And that's where we find the biggest learning outcomes to occur. And the answer is not to make it fun. Kids can find fun by themselves. They can find it elsewhere. They don't need education systems to make it fun. It has to be challenging, but most of all, it has to be something that they consider is a very efficient and effective learning experience, because kids love to learn. They're passionate about learning, we find out. And we have 7 principles that we've developed at the basis of this walk-away pedagogy. And the first is choice. It's very important to give students initiative, to give them choice over what they learn and how they learn it within a very specifically designed environment. And it's not about giving them choice between math and science, for example. That's very, let's say, reductive in an unproductive way. It's about giving them choice in a very granular way. And that brings us to the second principle, which is what we call hyper-personalization. The learning path, the learning program of each student can be potentially different. And in the TUMO environment, as you will see in a bit, there's literally millions of different ways kids can combine these Lego pieces of these learning modules we provide them into meaningful paths for learning. And they do so in an environment that's what we call classless, meaning there are no classes of cohorts of fixed students learning together for an extended period of time. It's a mix and match situation. Groups are fluid and ages are mixed together. And we find that to be extremely effective. Kids self-select into the groups they would be happiest and most productive in. The fourth principle is what we call alone time. We love group work. There's a lot of group work that happens at TUMO, but we're very cautious of the fact that we need to give students the time to work by themselves, to work up the courage and the muscle to join groups, and that this is particularly important for otherwise socially disadvantaged or non-assertive students who might be extremely talented but might suffer from being exposed all the time to a specific group dynamic. So that needs to change and be flexible. The fifth principle, as I think everyone would intuitively expect, is to give constant feedback and help. Getting stuck in a learning experience is one of the most unproductive experiences, one of the sources of that reduction in learning efficiency. So we need to always have coaches standing by to get kids unstuck, not teaching them necessarily, but just taking them over the hump that might be blocking them. The sixth principle is not to give certificates. This is something that we find a lot of resistance to. Everybody wants to give a diploma, a piece of paper that proves you learned something. We do give a diploma in the form of a portfolio. It's a digital portfolio, a dynamic one that's at any time showing everything a student has produced, everything they've participated in, but it shows the result rather than a third-party assessment of how they have done. The way corporations hire these days is less and less about what university you attended and more about what you have done and what you're capable of doing. What's your passion? What's your initiative? And finally, keeping it real life. It's very important to keep the learning experience tied to relevant real life experiences. This is not just in order to make it market friendly. That's also important. It's important to tie education to market needs. But keeping it real life is important from a learning quality perspective. students need to be motivated. They need to understand on a day-to-day level why they are learning what they're learning. And so these 7 principles of choice, hyper-personalization, no classes, alone time, feedback, non-certificating, and real-life experiences are at the base of this pedagogy. And what it results in is having a menu of 14 different, what we call focus areas, from programming to 3D modeling to design to music, that kids can not only choose from, but also combine with the help of what we call the learning path. We have a special learning management software that helps manage all this complexity across thousands of students, hundreds of possible learning activities they can do at any given time, color-coded by these focus areas, and feeding into these coach-supported activities and ultimately workshops alternating in a timeline of a couple of years. And if you look at the learning path of any particular student, it's like a snowflake. No 2 of them are alike. They're literally all different, and there are literally hundreds of millions of possible ways a student can form a learning path, a valid learning path that leads to impressive learning outcomes. Some images from the TUMO experience: the mix of ages tends to be very productive. The fact that we have what you see on the left, which is a coach-supported self-learning, and on the right, a workshop environment, project-based, where there's an industry expert leading the process. Coaches, as I said, are always standing by to get kids unstuck. They are very well trained not to solve issues on the behalf of the student, but to make sure that the student is always supported. We have something that we call the living diploma. It's a portfolio. Anything the student does, this is the Armenia case, and it exists across the world. I should mention that TUMO, with the help, as we mentioned, of KfW, with the leadership of KfW, is now in Berlin. TUMO Berlin opened recently and is going full speed with the support of Accenture, an excellent team at Accenture. But we also have centers in Paris, in Kiev, in Moscow, in Beirut, in Tirana, and soon to come in Milan and in various places in Portugal, in Kuwait, etc. And finally, this real-life component. Here you see an example of kids working in some of the most advanced 3D filming environments, which they think is normal, but we know is really a privileged access to high-tech equipment and industry experts who are typically, we find, very motivated to pass on their knowledge and to help teach the next generation. The learning environments that result from this, as far as architecturally and physically, are very interesting and very different from what you would expect from a traditional school. And this is important also to shift kids' mindsets and allow them to dream beyond the traditional frameworks. Sometimes it's out in the real world. Very often it's in very high-tech environments. This is an image from TUMO Paris, for example. This is TUMO Moscow, a combination of communal and individual learning. Making a movie on location, for example, is typical. Building a network of robots which communicate via Bluetooth with an expert from Spain is par for the course. This is an image from TUMO Berlin that's just now opening, hopefully soon post-COVID, in person. This is TUMO Moscow, and this is an image from TUMO Paris. Increasingly, our methodology and environments are adapting to emerging technologies. For example, until recently, a couple of years ago, we did not have this free laptop-based sit or on the ground or lie on a sofa kind of learning. Now we do. And that might evolve even further. And it's definitely evolving in the sense of working remotely, working from home, accessing TUMO from remote locations, whether those are TUMO boxes, which are satellite locations in different towns and cities connected to a central hub, or eventually having a hybrid environment where it's a combination of in-person learning and socialization, which is very important, and also learning from wherever it happens to be convenient to you. And finally, I would like to mention the socialization aspect, that we insist that TUMO be free of charge because we feel that that's what makes it accessible across the social spectrum. And once they're at TUMO, once they're interacting, kids learn together, to live together. And that's increasingly part of building successful enterprises and startups and collaborating globally, is this cultural and social flexibility and being comfortable with various levels of diversity. And in Berlin, we have the perfect partners who share that philosophy and who have helped us fine-tune our process, because as we open in various parts of Europe, we're learning to adapt to new realities, but we're also learning that the TUMO model, or learning for teenagers, is really very universal and does not need to be adapted as far as pedagogy, but may need to be adapted in terms of things like privacy rules or technologies or access and so on. So thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to present this, and I would pass it back to the other panelists.
Okay, so I will take over, or I don't know, Andre, will you introduce, or shall we just move on? Just give me a sign.
Just move on, Michael.
Okay.
Just move on.
So, well, thanks for introducing again, Berlin, Pegor, and oh, that was Pegor's clock to keep in time. That's brilliant. So, well, what I like to explain is, well, why TUMO? So why have we as KfW been so fascinated by TUMO, and why do we think, or why did we invest in this TUMO space in Berlin? Let's say founding a kind of lighthouse project, which has to be, to my mind personally, adapted in many regions in Germany. Get into the next slide, please. Digital education in Germany. So why do we need digital education, and how is TUMO filling the gap? Interest-wise, I think I have to explain to nobody within this session why we need digital education. I think that's a given, and even the pandemic, we've learned such a lot of things. But I think we have to differentiate and have to have a look exactly on that, what is needed. First of all, even some quotes I would like to state here is one from the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy, where you, listeners, companies say that one of the biggest threats we have is exactly the gap in skilled and trained people and potential employees, especially in this famous MINT area. In English, it's STEM. Even I do not like MINT, I come back to this word, but anyhow. And the second thing is, it is this uncertainty regarding the design of jobs, how they will be in the future. Mr. Reif, CPO from Kienbaum, says that 65% of our children will be employed in jobs which currently don't exist. And this is mainly driven, of course, by digitization. So everybody says now here, we have to invest into digital education, but we have to differentiate when we're talking about this word, digital education, because there are two things. Maybe you know there's big discussions regarding this famous Digitalpakt Schule. These 5 billion euros, which are posted by the federal government, only 500 million now are just taken now from the schools after 2 years, which is really a pity. But we are talking about digital equipment. We're talking about hardware. We're talking about technology within schools to offer, virtual classrooms. And you know exactly how this works in different quality in different areas in Germany. And adding then the quote from Mr. Karras, just buying devices and investing in the technology is not enough, is exactly that what we are talking about, thinking about TUMO. And why is it like that? We have to differentiate between digital competencies, knowing what is behind technology, how is technology used, what is existing to play with that, and digital equipment. These are two very different things. And now, following up on the next slide, I want to explain you how, to our perspective, TUMO is now filling the gap. Could you please switch to the next slide? Okay, so telling you the story about my kids, maybe. My kids are 13 and 15 years old. And well, I was very keen on finding something for them where they can learn a bit more about technology, even writing some lines of code in Python or whatever. And when I was searching for that, believe me, first of all, it's quite difficult to find something which is really useful. And the second is, if there's an offering, the offering is extremely expensive. It is extremely expensive. And when I was visiting Yerevan about, well, bigger, it's about 2 years ago, I think, I was in there seeing such a lot of kids using a variety of 14 different curriculums. And that was so impressive because, believe me, there is nothing comparable in the German market, in the education market, which is offering such a broad curricula. And it is, as it said on the slide, that we have 14 even proven curricula out of the box. This is very important. Why do I say out of the box? Because, you know, I take the word German Gründlichkeit. Normally we will think about a month how to build up a curricula. We can take it now. It is there, it's proven, it's used in many countries, and it's very fast to implement. And the second thing is, when you think about, or even when you're expecting, or we in Germany are always discussing, the school have to manage that. Think about, you know, I'm living in Heidelberg. I'm not talking from Heidelberg. Next to me, there's the Pedagogische Hochschule, where all the teachers are, well, trained for their future. There is no curricula regarding some technology topics, how to teach robotics, how to teach 3D design, how to teach coding, how to teach whatever in this area. It is not in. And in 5 years, we won't have educated teachers in that area. So TUMO is perfect to have a complementary offering to the schools. And of course, some schools, as we learn in Berlin, want to collaborate, yeah, bringing their kids into the TUMO center and having, for example, AGs or whatever, and bringing these things together. And just to point out one thing, talking about my daughter, maybe, when I'm saying help to fix the gender gap, when I try to offer my daughter, what do you think about doing some programming? What do you think she says? She's not really fascinated about that. But when I'm talking to her regarding, well, 3D design or game development, about music, you know, then she's really interested. And that's what we learned from TUMO, that even girls are starting in these creative things and then understand or even love to write some lines of code. So the barrier to get in there is completely different. And when I was talking about this word MINT, I really don't like it. TUMO is talking about creative technologies. That's something completely different than like the word MINT. And it's when we are all as companies talking about customer centricity, it's centricity to the needs of the kids, which is very important. Coming to the next slide, which is, you know, maybe you hear it. I'm completely fascinated about that, what we are talking about. Completely fascinated. Now, one slide back, please, if it's possible. I'm completely fascinated about the offering. And what we're doing now, what was the idea of KfW, is to say, well, let's bring this TUMO thing to Germany, put it to Berlin, have a lighthouse project, and show how it may work. And believe me, we are all talking about the gaps within our educational system in Germany. And we should not always take or point our fingers on our governments. We also have to act in this area in a complementary way. Education has to cost something, and why shouldn't we as companies, as municipalities, work together to close this gap? Because what I do not like is that even we as companies are complaining, but we do close to nothing. So walk the talk. So if you say the gap has to be closed, do something. And why shouldn't you do it with us together? And as your parents, aunts and uncles or whatever, start local initiatives, talk to municipalities, talk to friends, and think about how we can bring these things forward. That is how I would like you to engage, or maybe if you're inspired, everybody listening here is invited to Berlin to see it in live. And if you want to learn a bit more, you see some links on the page, on the last page, which you may use to get a bit more insight. I'm completely fascinated. Hopefully, I brought a bit of my fascination into this discussion here. And just call me, call us, and then we can talk a bit more about this topic. Thanks a lot for your time.
And I think, Michael, we all sensed your fascination, and I think this is where we share the fascination, and this is why, as well, we from Accenture were keen to be part of the journey. We opened Berlin in November, so really with the lock, or the second big lock during Corona, and still the concept have been proven. We had our first round of feedbacks from the students, and it's really positive. So even so, we cannot use the really lighthouse facility that we have in Berlin at this point in time, but still students are registering, and even with a limited version of what TUMO is all about, we have already been very successful. But a few questions came in, and Pegor, maybe first to you. I mean, I'm excited, and you and I had spent obviously a bit of time here discussing. But what were your reasons to found TUMO? I mean, it's remarkable what you achieved out of Armenia, really running a system that is relevant for so many countries, and really having the right thinking of that we need something different than the education typically plays. So what have been your reasons, Pegor?
Well, TUMO was founded in Armenia, and it was initially in part a reaction to the education system that Armenia had inherited from the Soviet time, which is optimized for identifying academically successful kids and catering to them, and not focused on creativity or initiative or empowerment, and not really equitably distributed across. We found later that really many school systems suffer from this. It was not Soviet Union specific, I mean, to various degrees, and there's a real hunger for complementing traditional schooling and literacy with something that is closer to what employers and entrepreneurs are looking for in terms of the skills that the future generation needs to have, which are, by the way, AI-proof in the sense that they really aim at the higher end of cognitive ability, initiative, creativity, which will be in demand for a long time to come. So that was really the impetus.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I mean, we three could talk about it forever. So Michael, there were as well a few questions in your direction. And I'm glad that KfW really stepped in to help founding the first lighthouse. I think we three are really passionate about it, and the results that we are already seeing in Berlin is showing that it's worthwhile the effort. And all of us are currently engaged in trying to have more TUMOs in other cities. So as Michael, my kids would love to get it not to Mannheim, but to Munich. And
region, very important.
And so when I introduced the concept and shown the videos to my teenagers, I think they would sign up. And what you rightly said, I think one of the big achievements is as well the gender diversity. That's already clear in Berlin. So we have more or less a half-half split, and attracting girls as well as boys for topics that are needed for all of us. And sitting in Accenture, I think I have seen a few of the students I already would like to earmark for one of our next employees. So I think as well, we as you rightly said, Michael, we as companies have an interest here. This is why we stepped in here as well. Even so, it's a little bit, Andre, out of the box what we are doing, but I think out of the box is as well the next topic for you. And thank you to Armenia. Thank you, Pegor, for joining us today, and Michael for representing KfW. I'm really glad we made this happen in Berlin.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
And Pegor, Michael, super. That's really amazing and impressive, and a great story overall. And I think also the spread in all the cities you mentioned, Pegor, you are running this already and you built this up. The idea behind it is inspiring. And I think we are talking over the last days about many projects, initiatives, offerings, capabilities, but learning, your part is a mission. It's really a mission with the learning part. So that's amazing. Much appreciated. Great to have you on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So to the next session. Now let's continue with our next topic, inside sales. We are keen on hearing how N3 creates new intelligence sales capabilities. But before, have any of you also wondered what N3 stands for? So let me welcome now Jeff Lowe, the founder, CEO of N3. And just, Jeff, would you be so kind to explain shortly N3, what does it stand for?
Okay. Thank you, Andre. First of all, I'm honored and excited to be here to present to clients and prospects and have a dialogue. So what does N3 stand for? So to be successful in B2B sales and marketing, you have to have a focus on the industry, the solution to the customer. And when we first started the business, it was into the third power. I'm kind of an engineer by background. And then we got a marketing department. They said, gosh, let's just name it N3. And that's how we're here. But, you know, Accenture acquired N3 last fall. Things have been moving rapidly. But when they acquired us, we were 2,400 sellers or people worldwide. And the idea is that by joining Accenture, we can kind of supersize and go through Accenture's sales channels, all the account channels, and rapidly grow. At the basis of what we do, we help clients accelerate revenue and close business. And we do this by having, you know, better people, better processes, and better technology. And we've always done this globally. So since inception, we started out being able to deliver in Europe actually, and then we've gone to APAC and of course North and South America, and so we can deliver worldwide. And so for us with Accenture, it's the common global footprint, but it was the ability to bring a new service offering to Accenture to address the front office, not only do the strategy, which Accenture does, or the digital demand generation, which Accenture does, but to bring revenue to our clients. And so that was the kind of the rationale. The next thing I wanted to talk about is N3 has experienced, you know, rapid growth. Go ahead, Andre. N3 has experienced, rapid growth over the last, since about 2005. And, you know, what are the trends that have caused that rapid growth? The trends that started the rapid growth was in 2005. We were working with a large software company, platform company, based in Seattle, Washington. You can guess who that was. And back then, we showed up with the premise or the vision that we needed to be able to take the skill sets that made people successful in outside sales, you know, the ability to deal with the complex buying organization, to be more educated, to be able to do full cycle sales, and to be able to to be able to show up with better technology. And so when we did that, we were fortunate that the market began to change. In the case of our client, they brought a product called Azure to market. Well, back in 2011, we did the strategy. We did the first the front office, the integrated demand center with CRM integrated into Marketo, and then it sales productivity tools, and then we did all the digital services. So we created anything that we were going through, whatever social media they had back then, which Twitter wasn't really on the market, so it was more email based back then, but it certainly evolved. And then we'd start the sales process. So we would take qualified leads and take them all the way through the sales cycle to close, which we would do activation. Then we would do the migration. And what we saw back then, and we worked with just about every technology ecosystem and application provider in the market. And so a lot of those clients were early innovators and tried to create a better integrated inside sales approach. But we saw the market evolve to where we're doing a lot of work in the telco media space. And what problem are we addressing there? The same problem. In a lot of cases, you have channels that we're used to doing supply side marketing that now have to be in a situation to get away from supply side, but to be able to show up with value, to be able to show up with an understanding of the industry. And we help our telco media clients understand where their clients are, who's buying, what channel partners are having an impact, and then often cases we'll work directly with an existing sales force that goes over to other industries, petroleum industry, industrial companies where we're doing the same thing. And finally, financial services, same issue. We work with a lot of fintech platform companies, and they're in the issue of how do we create loyalty directly through our channel, and how do we impact and accelerate revenue. And so fast forward to where we are all today. We're in a situation today where we've been impacted by COVID, and we're still dealing, if you're looking at the slide up there, with a very complex buying organization. There's 10 more people, and people are more informed, and you have to be able to show up oftentimes when they're tied to your competitor and quickly change that. Let me talk a little bit about what our services are. I'll try to move along here, but our services are everything from strategy to the technology. On the right side of the screen, you see the full cycle sales, and how do we do that? Let's go ahead and move to the next slide and talk a little bit about the components of our technology. Our technology, first of all, it's sensors technology we're really excited about that we're integrated was IRG, and it allows the better selection, sourcing, and development of leads. And we've tied that to our product, which is called One Glass, which gives us a centralized view of all clients, of our client system or any source, so that we tie that with our MIA that allows us to more quickly segment clients, see which messaging works, see which buyers are more impactful, and to spot trends and accelerate the whole sales process. And then finally, we have Leadership Hub that helps us manage contracts, staffing, and deliver it more efficiently. If there are any questions at this point, I'm available to answer any questions.
Not at Jeff. Not at this stage. We have already collected the question, but keep the flow, please, of your presentation.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Let me go. I think that would be it for the flow, unless you want me to go back and cover anything in more depth.
Okay. Okay. Then fine. Then Jeff, really exciting stuff. So you're talking about the macro market and the need and the industries are going after. Can you share for our audience how N3 is addressing this? And the second part of the question would be, what do you do and how do you do it?
Okay. Yeah. So what do? We help drive our clients' revenue, and how do we do that? We do that through a variety of both digital services integrated with inside sales motions, and we have people, sellers that have been doing this for 15 years that are trained in B2B sales, and they do it with processes. So we're able to build teams to sell into that client complex organization for some of the clients or the industries that I've mentioned. And so it's the teams, it's the people, and then finally it's the technology, both the technology that allows us to find and source leads better, but then once we have that, we have the technology to plug into any of our clients' system, whatever the source be. It could be a CRM, it could be a database, it could be any type of feed, and develop a kind of an overall view that allows us to spot trends, to change messaging, to more effectively create a dialogue and more effectively accelerate a sales cycle and close business. And then more importantly, with large teams of sellers, we're able to then get the entire team more effective. What typically might take 6 months to get to where it's effective, we can do it in a month or two.
Thanks, Jeff. And I welcome with me here on stage also again, Michael.
Andre, nice to have you. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Very good. So I have a good question for you here. So N3 has experienced rapid, continuous growth. What are the trends in the marketplace that are driving that growth?
Really, the trends in the marketplace that are driving the growth are the whole world of outside sellers are trying to move to inside sales. And if you see what's doing, it's the whole digital transformation. Everybody's trying to do what they used to do, maybe through personal interactions with inside sales teams. So anybody who's buying experience is changing. They have to change, and so we see that trend not going away for all industries. And everybody is more informed when they show up, so you have to have a better integrated digital and have a more intelligent dialogue when you show up with prospects. And then it's also a continuous selling motion, with everything being more in a consumption format. But if you're not able to do continuous interaction, continuous what is often called customer success, you're not going to maintain your clients.
Okay, understand. And if you were to condense it down to one key factor, what would it be? What's your secret sauce, Jeff?
Execution. What is our secret sauce? The execution, making sure we integrate the technology, always staying ahead with better proprietary technology, making sure that our processes always aligned to our industry or to the customers that we're trying to serve, and make sure that we have people that deliver without fail, and we change that out. So it's execution with those three components that we deliver our services.
Okay, got it. There's one more question I want to ask here, Jeff. It's about the digital transformation and the role of technology. Can you share what kind of technology you bring to Accenture and how that accelerates revenues for clients?
Yeah, I mean the technology that we bring to Accenture, the first part of it is called One Glass, and as One Glass as a name implies, it's sort of a single view. If you think about anybody, any of our clients, prospects, there's so many dispersed monolithic systems. They have 3 or 4 different CRM systems. They have different databases. There's different third-party social interaction technologies. We're able to hook into all those sources and create a common view. And so with this common view, what we then have is we have MIA, which is called the Market Intelligent Assistant. It's tied to a graph database, and we've been doing that for years. And what it does, it's proprietary, but it allows us to look at all those inputs, take what we do with the human intelligence, we figure out what the right messaging is, and then when we go to market, we segment down to what industry, what user, and we see what resonates, and then we're able to score it. We're able to then take a look at that and decide, if we have 100-person, how can we quickly get the dialogue going, and what is the most fertile place to get revenue? And so it has the effect of, showing up with the right message, with the right people, to the right part of the client, and having an impact sooner. And if you get revenue sooner, that makes you more profitable.
I have a sympathy for the name Mia because that's the name of one of my daughters, actually. So maybe I'll have her apply at you and get going there.
We'd love to have her.
Handing it over to Andre.
Thanks, Michael. And there's another question from the audience, Jeff. Can you give us, or the audience, some practical examples of use cases? So very tangible.
So a use case for clients, I think I had went through this, what we did with Azure, but another use case would be with a fintech, that had channels and had a platform that they'd go to market, and they had no idea who their customers were, where they were, or their revenue was, and if through the channels they were using, their product was being sold or being pushed aside by the competitor. And so us being able to use what we knew with our technology, but our process and the people, we were able to come in a brief period of time, less than 6 months, point out the channel partners that weren't adding impact, able to identify their customers because they would sell completely through the channel. So by doing a joint sales effort for the partner, we were able to capture the location, the names, the PII, if you will, and so that's a huge value, and that goes across industries. We had one where we were in industrial, did the same thing for an organization that did electric motors. Think about the largest companies, some of them industrial companies that do that, and we can name them in Germany, we can name them in the US, but it was the same situation, that for years they had outside sellers and they had even an inside sales team. So we're able to meet clients where they want to buy. If you have an existing inside sales team, we can help you bring a new product to market. We can help you deliver your revenue in this quarter while we try to bring a new product. We can augment if you need more opportunities at the front end of the sales funnel. We can hand that off to direct sales force, and so we do different iterations of that to impact our clients.
Very interesting, Jeff. So there's another question, and you mentioned Mia, not the daughter from Michael, but your AI engine behind it. So where do you see Mia in a couple of years when she's growing up? Is it like a sales avatar for you?
Yeah, if by sales avatar, do you mean, do we transpose does it become like a bot that does away with the whole human interaction? Well, we could
exactly.
I could go off into the weeds and take up the rest of the day talking about that, but I don't think in the next decade we replace what I call the human being for the last mile or the last interaction. I mean, we're all here and communicating live when we could just record everything and not have that interaction. I do see things becoming Mia, increasingly automating things so that what you're doing is you're pushing more to the final close and to the final customer success and driving the consumption. So if anything, it's going to continually, push, push human beings to a higher skill level and automate some of, what may be just, the initial call or the initial qualification. So I see Mia being able to do that.
Thank you. And we had another question from the audience. Michael, here, the last one.
All right, I'll take that one. So thanks for sharing more about digital inside sales, Jeff. And how can you really help accelerate and optimize the sales process to drive revenue? Can you tell us how to engage you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I think there's a slide here with my email address, but the best way to engage us is to go through your Accenture sales channel. So whether that's in strategy, operations, consulting, digital interactive service, we in our 6 months have spent our time engaging through Accenture. So you can go to your client account team and they will send a message internally and probably initially speak to somebody on our chief revenue officer's team, and we can engage like that, or send me an email.
And Jeff, is there a specific industry focus, or is it applicable to every industry?
It's applicable to every industry. I mean, and we do have case studies we can send out.
Okay.
If somebody wants to send me an email, we'll send you a case study.
Okay. So another one we have here from the audience. So what are the keys, Jeff, to having a revenue-focused channel strategy? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key to a revenue-focused channel strategy, it all starts with the end user, right? Who is it you're going after? Who ultimately is consuming or using your product and service? And we always think right to left. So you have to really understand that. And anybody that's been in business for a while, usually you're going to be able to identify. And then from there, what you're doing is you're focused on, how can we find more end users like that? So you're focused on revenue. And what we typically would do would be to build a through channel campaign that is really based solely on taking leads and driving revenue for your channel for whatever products, whatever service they have that pulls your product or service through. So it starts with who's the end user and working backwards.
Very good. Another point, you mentioned Mia again, referring back, and we're always also on the Accenture side, and this is a great fit to N3. We talk about this human and machine combination, Jeff. So where do you see this human and machine combination or ratio for you actually as of today and also in the future?
Well, I mean, if you look at us today, right, the machine is with us. It's a tool that's with the human all along. If we look at, when we do our digital interactive campaigns, I would say it's, the tools 25% of it. And I think in the next 10 years, maybe it moves to where it's 65 or 70% of it.
Thanks. Michael, any additional question from your side or from the audience?
I think we've touched it all. Jeff, any closing comments from your side?
Thank you very much. And we look forward and hope to have reach out to us.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you so much for having us here, and also appreciate early wake up on your side from I think it's East Coast. So yeah. Much appreciated, Jeff. So let me just summarize the takes. First of all, N3, great acquisition, great new part of our Accenture community, and especially adding a new capability with inside sales, what we just learned from you, Jeff. Then secondly, and this is again, we heard a lot about back office functions, front office, marketing operations, but here we have the topic about really sales, supporting the top line, supporting direct the sales side. And with that, it's really the top line growth supporting. So it's completely new and exciting and absolutely relevant impact. And then again, you said engage directly with you. You shared your credentials, but we are also happy to engage you directly via our Accenture network. Whenever come up to us, I think there's a lot we can learn from you, Jeff, from your team. And I think a lot our companies, our clients can profit from. Much appreciated again. Thanks for having us.
Yes, have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Have a good day. So with that, handing over to the next topic. And now we have a very exciting topic about data-driven operations. And we have GEA on stage as our next client. And GEA, and I have to look it up, honestly, I don't have it by heart. The name stands for German Gesellschaft für Entstaubungsanlagen. Translation, Company for the Dusting Systems. It was founded in 1920 and went public in 1989. And actually, it's a really great journey, great development itself, from manufacturer of those dusting systems to a world market leader in plant engineering for food and pharmaceutical industries. And just one really absolutely amazing fact, actually every second liter beer that's consumed worldwide runs through GEA machines. Wow, very impressive. And also it's great to have now Christian Niederhagemann on stage, the CIO of GEA, who's driving this intensive journey to cloud, data-driven operations journey, together with the client account lead, Thomas Savoy. Welcome on stage. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Andre, and thanks, Christian, for joining this Intelligent Operations Day. And Andre, as you mentioned, it's not only every second liter of beer. I mean, if I started working with GEA, I was really amazed because, I mean, GEA basically is kind of present every day in our lives, because every third chicken nugget is produced with GEA technology. Every quarter of milk worldwide is produced with GEA technology. And every second container that is shipped worldwide contains GEA parts. So, Christian, would you mind sharing a bit more about this exciting firm?
Sure, of course. And first of warm welcome also from Düsseldorf here in our headquarters. Yeah, sure. This is an amazing portfolio you mentioned, Thomas, and definitely. So this is also an amazing company in regards of our journey we are facing right now, and some figures in regards of GEA, especially in our, let's say, setup so far, because the setup itself is also one of the main cause for this amazing journey we see at the moment. We are more or less 20,000 people, experts worldwide within our GEA family. We are a 5 billion sales company, so all in all, this is the typical German Mittelstand. So, but we're acting globally, and that is really important to see and to understand. that we are really, really widespread all over the world, not just for our service people. Of course, our factories and our customers are far, far away. And to be honest, there's some really, really nice locations. For example, in New Zealand, also some customers are located there, especially in the dairy business. So this is amazing. And it's but also one of our major challenges we see in IT, for example, because we have to serve more than 250 legal entities, 250 sites, 200 legal entities within this organization. And this is really, from time to time, really difficult to orchestrate and to bring all these people together. But this is also part of our amazing journey, as I mentioned, and this is really cool stuff to work with GEA and to be with us. But as you mentioned, this is part of our story, as we mentioned, because this harmonization process we see and we need for, let's say, running all these complex systems on the one hand side from product perspective, but also from an organization perspective, this is part of our story. And looking forward to discuss this with you within the next 20 minutes and to share some insights how to manage this.
This is great, Christian. Thanks a lot. So let's talk about the journey to cloud from GEA. I mean, GEA is kind of mature in regards of cloud. We are talking about a 90% cloud maturity. So what is the strategy and why did you choose to start your journey to cloud?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we are really, really scattered all over the world, as I mentioned, and this is also reflecting in the, let's say, IT structure. We didn't saw back in the days a really structured approach and a joint approach, and we changed this back in the days to bring all these together in one IT organization. That's one, and two, this is the most important part, to bring all these infrastructure together. So, and we kicked it off, and we transformed together with you and your guys, and thanks for that, over the past years, maybe more or less each and every stuff and server to the cloud. We decided to go for a strategic partner. This is Microsoft in that case, to go for Azure. And to bring all our stuff we see, more than 4,000 servers, by the way. We closed and decommissioned each and every data center we had in the past. We just one co-location in Germany for all these core components, but each and everything is now operated by Microsoft in the cloud. And now we are dealing with more than 95% of our compute power and storage in public and private cloud environments. Especially, the major reason was that we decided to go for more or less cloud native approach. Especially with new applications like ServiceNow, like the SAP suite based on cloud, for example, C4, the entire suite. And we talk later on about the S4 journey we see. This will be, of course, not cloud native, but also running in the cloud and based on Azure systems. So this is the first strategic decision. The second one is, as I mentioned, to go with strategic partners like Accenture, like Microsoft, like SAP in that case. But of course, there will be some let's say, infrastructure remaining on site, especially for our OT and IoT cases. Yeah, this is of course some edge devices and the connected factory as well. This is obvious, but at the end, this is part of our journey and more or less well managed at the moment, because we see still some obstacles. To state this crystal clear, this is not a walk in the park to run this journey. Definitely not. We saw some obstacles in regards of connecting, let's say, local, let's say, file shares and all these things we saw in the past, moving this to the clouds. This was really a challenging one, but we made it together with all our partners and especially with the OEMs, in that case, like NetApp, for example. But this is also part of the prerequisite we see and we recommend to maybe to your customers as well, to be really well prepared for this journey. This is really key. And there's some facts you have to keep in mind. On the one hand side, this is prepare your processes, of course, prepare your staff, of course, but also prepare your infrastructure. And this is, as we see here, one of the key elements we missed in the past and from time to time neglected, because this is one of the key elements in regards of performance and customer satisfaction or user satisfaction to bring the data back from the cloud. So, and we decided to go for a full SD-WAN approach in 2019. We made it, we rolled out to more than 220 sites our SD-WAN components, and now we're able to manage this centrally with one of our partners. And secondly, we decided to change the entire global network and all this MPLS and internet stuff we saw back in the days. This is part of our history, and now we are looking forward. We're changing all our data lines within the next 12 months, 14 months, to one single provider globally. This is the next part of the journey. And the final one will be the local optimization in regards of Wi-Fi, 5G, and all that stuff we see in our factories. By the way, we operate 65 factories at the moment. This is also a huge number for a company with 5 billion sales. So this is also a challenge for us to bring all this technology, all this, let's say, infrastructure to our sites in parallel to operate the cloud. So this is the journey in general from an, let's say, basic approach and from an infrastructure approach. And but on the other hand side, we are really challenging we got some applications and processes. And this is, let's say, part of our history in regards of running things in parallel, because since the new board joined GEA 2 years ago, so many things had happened and changed within GEA in the organization. By the way, in 2020, we launched a fully new organizational approach. Yeah. This is also reflecting the setup with divisions and regions in that case. And so you can imagine it's also challenging to bring this to our stuff and to operate 220, 230 sites in parallel with one single organization. So, but this is our story, and it's a really amazing one. Oh.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can only underline that. It's really amazing. And if you compare to the industry, I mean, there's about 10% is on the cloud right now. So GEA is one of the first movers, so to speak, in the journey to cloud. So Christian, would you mind sharing some do's and don'ts on this journey? I mean, you described a lot of stuff and a lot of complex things you had to manage, basically. So in your experience, what are the things to focus on, and what are the things you should rather not focus on?
So first of all, mindset. This is definitely the most important change you need in the organization, and to see what are the ups and downs in regards of cloud, for example. So of course, it is easy to manage. It's really fancy stuff. Everything, everybody is talking about this. But on the other hand side, if you talk about the downsides, and especially in regards of performance, for example, because it's a different way of working. Yeah. So on the one hand side, you're able to grab your stuff, move around. Especially in this pandemic situation, mobile working, of course, is a key success factor, of course. For us, it's not a challenge, by the way, because we are prepared for that, obviously. But on the other hand side, to ensure, of course, all this stuff in regards of information security, performance, and all the things, this is one. But this needs also, as I mentioned, kind of a mindset shift. With all of your people, because it's a different way of working. Yeah, it's fully agile. It's different one. How to deal with data, for example, how to store data in future. Yeah, it has to be much more structured in that way. On the other hand side, and this is the second takeaway, be prepared from an infrastructure perspective. As I mentioned, network is key, definitely. Data connection is key, and high performance ones, by the way. And this is also kind of cost driver. Yeah, we have to consider that it's not an easy journey on the one hand side, but also not a cheap journey. Yeah, but all in all, with this effort we invested on the one hand side, but on the other hand side, from an operational cost perspective, this brings us the highest flexibility in regards of growing this company, because this is our major aim. And our CEO recently stated, okay, this is our aim for the next years to grow this company. And we are prepared for that. And this is one prerequisite to go for it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Yeah. This is really amazing. So let's focus a bit more on the ongoing program, the Global SAP. I mean, you said it already. You have basically 90% of your non-SAP and also SAP systems, which you are currently running on the cloud. So how do you manage basically to come from 100 different ERP systems to one digital core? I mean, this sounds like an amazing step ahead. So
well, when I got in contact for the first time with GEA, they stated, okay, yeah, we have some challenges in regards of our applications. Okay, there are some ERP systems. Okay, and we have to deal with that. Okay, so when we did this analysis for the first time, okay, we talk about 100 ERP systems, and we talk about different ERP systems, different products. Yeah, and you name some ERP systems, I promise you we have it in stock, yeah, and we operate them. This is due to the fact that we saw so many acquisitions and growth over the past, let's say, over the past decades. So this is the major reason, and there were no really major harmonization approaches and initiatives back in the day. So this is the prerequisite, and we decided in 2019 to bring all that to one digital core. Why? The major reason is, of course, to run a future business really smoothly, on one platform, to enable GEA and our customers to run this fully digital, not just in regards of automation and RPA and all that stuff, but more in regards of digital products, digital and data-driven services, for example. And that's the reason why we decided, or the board decided, of course, to go for a really greenfield new approach. And we did some exercise together with the SAP, because it was really clear right at the beginning that we will go for an SAP approach as our one and only and single provider in regards of ERP and system landscapes. And we invested weeks in regards of architecture with their experts. At the end, this was a single client, single tenant, and single instance approach. So like we did 20 years ago, but it's the only, from our perspective, the only way to bring all these different legal entities, stories, business models to one core. And that's the reason why we said, okay, this will be the greenfield one. And we will get rid, we will see this later on, all our, let's say, mature systems and legacy systems within the next years, and concentrate it to one, definitely. And there are some prerequisites also from our perspective, and some outcomes and learnings that we did, because as we stated, there's a so heterogeneous landscape from an IT perspective, but also from a process perspective. And one of the first things we initiated and implemented in 2019 was a global process management. So of course there was a kind of process management within GEA, no doubt about this, but not a global one, not an overarching one, not a structured one. That was the first exercise. We set up a global department as a direct report to the board. This is really important to have this lever to, let's say, execute the changes in the process management, of course. This is not really a huge department, just 7 people, but we set up. It was really amazing to see how easy this was, because the participation rate to this organization was really amazing. Today we see approximately 150 people contributing to this process management globally, as process managers, as key users, for example. And this is the community who has designed the future global GEA processes. Yeah? Of course, based on best practices, of course, together with you and your colleagues. But at the end, this was one outcome of the community, and that's really key, that you have this right mindset and this contribution to this process. This was one. And secondly, this is a really joint approach together with this global SAP program, because the processes are the foundation and the basic for each and everything we see in future. And then we implement on that based on these processes. By the way, in total, 250 processes based on SAP, and 250 processes for all the other stuff like internal governance, all the things. But in total, we designed 500 processes. So within approximately 12 months, by the way. And this is also part of the GEA story. Speed is the essence. So this is really, as you know this, Thomas, and we're dealing with this on a daily basis, yeah. But because speed is really key for us to bring this organization to the next level. And together with these two streams, we would be able to, let's say, as you know, in this summer we see the first rollout, and this is also one of my recommendations to the audience, to bring all these participants together to one table, because just as a joint approach, it's possible to run a really complex situation, like, for example, a greenfield ERP approach. And this was part of our success story. And by the way, we did really much in regards of change management, for example, in communication. to bring all the people to the on the same page. This was one topic, and the second one is to involve the local people. For example, now we are preparing the first rollout, and of course the local people are part of the project team, are working together with the core team to bring this to life. So this is of course is not rocket science, but from time to time it's really valuable to mention this, because this is we're dealing with people, yeah, at the end. This is not a technology project, it's not an IT project, this is a people and change management project. And so this is also really highly recommended to keep an eye on change management and communication within such a program.
Mm-hmm. Now, with this story, Christian, we did discuss that a lot in the past in regards of how do we roll out such a massive and complex SAP transformation, basically. Could you let the auditorium know a bit more why GEA choose the specific way for the rollout? I mean, you remember those discussions. Normally, there's like regional rollouts. Now at GEA, because we have such a fragmented system landscape, there's different requirements. And could you let the auditorium know what way we choose and for what reason, basically?
Yeah, I remember quite well these discussions in Walldorf. So sometimes day and night, to be honest, and to discuss what are the let's say the best and most valuable rollout approach. Of course, first of all, you have to slice the elephant. That's one. We did it in two major slices. On the one hand side, we decided to go for template one, so-called template one. This is finance, controlling, and minor functionalities for smaller companies, and the let's say the full approach, including production, procurement, engineering, and all the things. That's one. And the second dimension is we had sliced the entire organization in certain pieces. And of course, we decided to go for a t-shirt size approach. Yeah? We have these small and really tiny companies with 20, 30, 50 people, sales organizations, some service staff. Which is in the mid-sized ones with, let's say, a minor share of production, for example, let's say spare parts business and all the things. And we see the really large ones, our factories, with a full-blown approach in regards of manufacturing, production, spare parts handling, and all the things. So this is the range we see between, let's say, 20, 30 people and 2,500 people. So this the range we have to cover. And that was the major discussion back in the days in 2019, how to deal with that. And we decided to go for an approach. We see this on the next slide to cover this system-wise. And you mentioned this, why not by region, for example, because from a logistics perspective, would be the easiest approach, of course, to cover Latin America, South America, and then North America, okay, so then Asia, okay, and later on maybe Europe, something like that. Is what not the case. The second discussion was, okay, to cover by business models, for example. Yeah, this is also an approach, but not really feasible from our perspective, because we see so many burning platforms in regards of mature systems, as I stated, never heard before, and not really easy and possible to operate, by the way. And our approach is now to get rid of all these, let's say, critical systems. That's one, and especially also in regards of the let's say major applications you see, it's mainly Axapta by Microsoft and SAP ECC6. These are, of course, well maintained, well operated, yeah, and not the, let's say, highest pressure to replace them. And that's the reason why I said, okay, first of all, and this is wave one of wave two, until 2022, sorry, to serve all these, let's say, smaller companies like S and medium ones, and starting in 23, then we'll cover the production sites and the major service sites, replacing Axapta and SAP, our SAP systems. This is the approach. Of course, we're right at the beginning, so the template is ready. In May, we will we will finish the development phase. So after less than 12 months, so this is also really a fast journey, to be honest. Then we'll run the integration test and all the things, so you do the test acceptance test, and this is our next major milestone in July. So the first rollout in Europe, in Ireland, to be precise. And then we will see until end of this year. This is also maybe interesting information. We see additional 12 rollouts until end of this year. So as you can imagine, the teams are quite busy from the center side as well as from GEA's side. But this is part of our story. We have to tell, and so all in all, this is a really huge story, and let's say we tackle more than let's say 3 or 4 areas as stated: infrastructure, cloud journey, this ERP approach, and by the way, in parallel, of course, we run 150 projects in parallel to serve our business, our current daily business. So this is also, and that's the reason why I'm been really proud of this story and the success we see and the outcomes. And I guess we will talk about this in, let's say, 12 months from now to see what had happened in the meantime. But I'm really looking forward.
Great. Thanks a lot, Christian, for sharing all your insights. And I can only confirm, I mean, we are doing a really strong journey, and it's always every day fun, but also kind of stressful, basically, to push this forward. But it's really exciting working with these approaches with you and your team.
Yeah, it's only possible as a team, to be honest, with all our partners. And of course, and from time to time, we don't talk about suppliers, by the way. We talk about partners because it's a joint approach, also together with you, together with SAP. And this is the only way you can handle project and program at that scale within this period of time. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Much appreciated. So, Andre, is there any questions from the auditorium?
Of course, Thomas, Christian, thank you very much for the impressive story and extensive journey you are driving. So the first question from the audience is, as your journey, again, is very extensive, this was also recognized by the audience, how do you manage the change? And you already said the mindset, having the right mindset is super important, but I think there are many more ingredients behind it, Christian.
Yeah, definitely. We have dedicated teams for that. This is definitely one prerequisite. And we have, in addition, 2 agencies supporting us in that area. The key element is to have the right redlining, the right story, to talk and to tell about our people. That's really key. We started in summer 2019. To, let's say, beginning to tell the story, because one, this is an internal story in regards of change within the IT organization. That's one, because, by the way, I missed to mention this, we, let's say, had also redesign of the entire IT organization globally. So this happened also in parallel. And the second and of course major stream was to tackle the entire organization by telling the story, preparing the entire organization, what will come next. And we did it with, let's say, everything you can imagine in regards of back in the days with physical meetings, kickoff sessions. We have this is also really important that the entire board is also part of the story. Yeah, this is 110% supported by the board and the supervisory board. We had videos, we had Q&A sessions, live sessions with the board, with the project leadership team, with our partners like SAP, for example. We had Frank Riemsberger on site. We had Thomas Sauer-Essig with us. So this is really key to tell our people the story. Yes, it really will become true. Yeah, this is not just an IT project and something happens in the background. No, this is really part of our DNA in future, and this is our digital core in future. So
intensive change management measures, Christian. Thanks for highlighting this. And the next question is directly referring to the change part. So this is on spot for our audience. So what is more challenging, the technology or the human side of the change aspect?
Of course, the human side, definitely. The technology is there. Yeah, we are able to manage this. Of course, I mentioned from time to time, it's a little bit challenging. Yeah, okay. We see we saw some obstacles, and we will face some obstacles also in future, no doubt about this. But to bring the people on the same side, that's one, and to motivate the people to be part of this journey. This is the most critical and the most difficult part of the story, definitely. Yeah. And that's the reason why we invested not just money, but also passion and ideas, how to tell the story and how to bring the people on the same page to be motivated to drive this change. Because imagine more than 200 legal entities will see, not totally, but different processes in future. Yeah. Mm. They did their business since decades, and now starting in August this year, there will be a different story. Yeah. Of course, this will be we see the core processes, but in a different way, yeah, and in a different system with different people, with a different approach, and this is a massive change story we see at the moment.
Thank you. Thanks for giving this insights. I have one more question, Christian, for you. So, what is your key experience or lessons learned of your journey so far? Obviously, there's way more to come and more experiences, but what is your key takeaway at the moment?
Yeah, to be honest, there are two major key takeaways. One is you need a dedicated goal. So our goal is until 2025 to be fully completed with the entire journey. This is our aim. So you have to define the goal itself. Our goal is, and our strategy is, okay, one ERP system globally for this organization. So this is the North Star we're dealing with. That's one. And second takeaway, and my major recommendation, deep from the heart, because be prepared. Yeah, think about the stories you need. Think about prerequisites, about the change management. Be prepared for more or less each and everything, because there's no time and no space to think or to rethink topics during this journey, because as I mentioned, this is a really quick and fast journey and a high-speed journey, and there's no room for any other, let's say, major adjustments during this journey. So be prepared, as always. Great, Christian. Thanks a lot for sharing all these insights and experiences and lessons learned. So let me sum this up. I think, first of all, data. We heard this in every session almost, and it's your data-driven journey at GEA. The second thing is change is based on the right mindset, and you see really people in the middle of everything, and I really like that. So the third thing is what I take is it's not an easy journey, and we know that, and we heard this also several times. But it's also not a cheap journey. So you are ready to invest, and this is crucial. And the last thing is having this one common ambition, common target in mind, and your ambition is to grow the company. With that, thank you very much again, Christian, also Thomas. Thanks. Great to have you here on stage on the virtual. You're always welcome. Okay. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye. So, actually, that's it for the breakouts. To round up these 3 insightful days, packed with valuable client speeches and getting to know their lessons learned, I'm now delighted to welcome with me here on stage, Frank Riemensberger, our market unit lead for Accenture Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Russia, and also a member of the Accenture Global Management Committee. So welcome, Frank, on stage. Great to have you here.
Hello, Andre. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Frank. And also now we have Corona conform. Michael is not in the room because we only can stay 2 of us here. Michael is online with us.
And we all tested.
And we all tested, yes, absolutely. And Michael is back in the room, still in Munich. But again, the operations lead for DACH region is also joining us. So Frank, what is your impression of the 3 days and how do you see the importance of intelligent operations in your market?
First of all, I think it's great to see the community coming together and all our clients actually coming together, talking about the operations of the future. If it's in marketing, if it's in the corporate functions, actually if it's in the core of the business. And if you look what's happening, I think in the next probably 5 years, the last 5 years in our businesses was all about digital. My view is the next 5 years is all about intelligent operations. And why is that? Why is operations the new digital? And it's very clear. The cloud's coming, and if you look what's happening, all of you are one way or other taking all your processes, all your application, all your data, the way you operate your company, you take it into a new space which allows for complete new ways to optimize. And that's different. We didn't have that in the last years. And I think, if there's enough of the processes, enough of the data, enough of the operations in a new environment, we will find collectively as industries complete new ways to drive operations performance, to drive business performance. And I think the competitive of tomorrow, it's not anymore digital, it's about intelligent operations, it's about, do you understand your data, and are you able to drive your business dynamically to a target business outcome based on data and based on the way that you can real-time influence the way your operations executed. And that's new, it's on the way. I think it will transform literally every area. We have seen corporate functions going that way for probably a few decades now. They will step up, but we will see the core of the business, the whole experience, the marketing interaction, the way sales is done, the way supply chain is done. All that will be rethought in a data-driven, in a target outcome-based way. And that's what we talked about the last 3 days. And I think that is where your competitiveness will be decided in a few years from now. The time to prepare for that is now. Back to you, Andre.
Thank you very much for this great overview from your perspective, Frank. So Michael, what is your perspective after this 3 days of intelligent operations and following up the message from Frank?
So I think, Andre, first of all, thank you to you and the team for making a great session happen. I mean, that's number one. In terms of what I have seen, heard, and observed is pure excitement. It's pure excitement. It's constant transformation that drives business performance results. But it's the excitement factor that needs to happen to figure this out. Let me give you my personalized view of what's happened and what we have heard. So from DHL, we've heard cloud is catalyst of change. We've heard a vision of a data-driven, touchless finance and smart automation, driving true change. From an analyst view, we've heard that cloud drives change. Data is the strategy. If you're not digital, you're not in the race. And mega deals are back. So that's interesting. The third view is the third-party advisory view. So how do you work together with your clients? It's about the we instead of the us. It's about true partnership. It's about transformation together. So if you sum this up and look at it, it's really excitement about driving business performance outcomes to the next level, but it's more than that. And I want to mention the two more topic. It's the new ways of learning in a human kind of way, and that actually drives excitement as well. So if you put this all together, we have a variety of topics driving business performance into the next level, but it's about excitement. It's about the way we do this together as a team. And with this, I think this is what really drives my personal excitement.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks. So what have we seen the last 3 days? Just a summary. The first day, we talked about enterprise functions, so the future of finance and HR, followed by insights on day 2 about marketing operations, and an objective outside study on the 7 key trends for the operations market, so for the BPO market. And today, again, the exciting, what Michael just mentioned, the new breed of operations with fresh thoughts about learning, inside sales, and data-driven operations. We were lucky to listen to a different perspective from our clients, partners, analysts, as well as third-party advisors. So different angles, different views, different experiences. With so much input, let me briefly sum up what went down the last 3 days from my perspective. Cloud is the enabler for the intelligent operations journey. Number 1. Number 2, operations has many faces, from back office to front office. So top line and bottom line. Operations is already very much data-driven, and this is just the beginning. Future ready, the equation, is resource optimal plus resilient plus agile. And operations as important enabler to ensure better business performance. That's the ultimate goal. So that's it. A lot of learnings, a lot of input, a lot of experience, a lot of insights. And don't forget our content hub. You already have received the invitation via email for Accenture Rooms. All the content, because it was quite a lot over the last 3 days. We have all the replays of all the sessions, even recaps of the days, day 1, day 2, day 3 to follow up pretty soon as audio, podcast, and also as text. We will present and share all the presentations in the Accenture Rooms, and also followed by latest our Accenture point of views. And of course, we had many, many questions, and honestly, sorry, we couldn't answer all in the sessions due to the short time slots. We will follow up with that and provide all the answers also as well in the Accenture Room space. And don't forget to network. This is also, though virtual, it's about networking, it's about coming together, it's about chat, and you can also use Accenture Rooms as a follow-up and a networking opportunity. And now a very, very special also to especially all our speakers from our clients, partners, but also from our Accenture colleagues, as well to the entire market team in the background. So it's not obvious, but there's done a lot of work behind it from the marketing team, as well from the production team, but also from my team, who is organizing everything around it. So it's great to have you all here. It was, by the way, average 150 participants. So a great audience. It's such a fantastic Intelligent Operations Day community, and it's about to continue. So please spread the word, start or continue your own intelligent operations journey. And remember, always be digitally curious and be future ready. So with that, take care, stay healthy, and have a great day. Goodbye.